Back to ITN's community, we don't know exactly when they came, we don't know exactly from whence they had come. It's been said that perhaps they came from India, because we have a number of sources that speak of them having come from India. But in China at that time, and not only in China, India often meant outside. It often meant over there. It often meant the area that we don't know. And therefore, it's very likely that the community did not come from India. As a matter of fact, the chance that they actually came from India is very unlikely, but that perhaps people writing about the community said, oh yeah, they're from India, meaning they're from somewhere out there, but we don't quite know where. And others have said that the community came from Yemen because they had certain similarities with the Jewish community of Yemen. For example, their Kaddish D'Rabbanan prayer, as well as other similarities between the Jewish community of China and of Yemen, but it doesn't prove very much, because you see, the Jews of Yemen did not move around very much, and therefore they preserved a number of ancient authentic traditions of Judaism that may have been to some degree or another lost by other communities. And therefore, if there is some similarities between the Jewish communities of China and Yemen, it may simply mean that the Jews in Kaifeng retained certain unchanged ancient traditions, which had only been held onto by the Jewish community of Yemen as well, but does not mean that they came from Yemen, but just that they both came from the same parent community prior, which may simply have been the land of Israel. Finally, it's been said that they came from Persia or thereabouts, in the region of Persia, and this is based on some linguistic and circumstantial evidence, and this is, truth be told, the most likely theory as to the origins of the Jewish community of Kaifeng. They probably came to Kaifeng, which was the capital at one point of the Chinese Empire, via what came later to be known as the Old Silk Route. As to when they come, nobody quite knows. The earliest reference that we have to the Jewish community in China, to the actual community, we've mentioned Jews in China, but to an actual community, is a synagogue built in Kaifeng in the year 1163 under the leadership of Rabbi Lewi, which is Rabbi Levi. Now here's an interesting question for you. How do you say Jew in Chinese? Well, lately the word for Jew has been Yutai, which comes from Yehudi, which means somebody from the tribe of Judah. Although, obviously, it does not necessarily mean someone from the tribe of Judah in terms of how the word is used, because the word Jew comes from this same tribe of Judah and from Yehudi. And there are plenty of Jews who do not come from the tribe of Judah. For example, Kohanim and Leviim. The priests and the Levites are known not to come from the tribe of Judah, according to their family tradition. Nevertheless, they are also called Jews. So Yutai is a recent name for the Jews of China, related to the word Yehudi, meaning from Judah. Hundreds of years ago, it seems they had a number of different names. For example, they were called Yitzuloya, which, if you factor in the Oriental difficulty with pronouncing an R, comes out to Yitzuroye, or Yisrael, which is Israel. Also, they were called those who teach the scriptures, they were called the 8 clans with 7 surnames, and they were called the blue-turbaned Muslims. But most interestingly, they were called the Tiao Jin Chiao. Now, Tiao Jin Chiao means the sect that plucks the sinews. Here's a riddle for you. Why were they possibly called the Tiao Jin Chiao, the sect that plucks the sinews? Alright, I gave you a chance. Don't feel too bad. People generally don't guess. The answer is going back to Jacob. Before Jacob is going to meet his brother Esau, seemingly the evening before, after a period of enforced and much enjoyed separation, the Bible supplies us with a brief subplot of quite a mysterious and mystical nature. It says, Vayevater Yaakov levado, vayeavek ish imo ad alot hashachar. And Jacob remained alone on the other side of the river, and a man wrestled with him until the morning. And when the man realized that he could not conquer Jacob, he touched Jacob's thigh, and Jacob therefore had a limp. So the Bible goes on to say that henceforth the sons of Israel do not eat the sciatic nerve until this very day. And it is true, until this very day, the sons of Israel do not eat the sciatic nerve, and that is what is meant by the Tiao Jin Chiao, those that plucked the sinew, those that removed the sciatic nerve from an animal and did not eat that part of the animal. The name undoubtedly is a unique formulation for the word Jew or Israelite, and I don't know of any other community in the world that calls its Jews the Tiao Jin Chiao, or even in translation, the sect that plucks the sinews. But interestingly, the roots of this name are as ancient as the name Israel, because this man, angel, whatever this creature happened to have been, and there's obviously much to be said upon it in Jewish sources, whatever this being happened to have been that wrestled with Jacob, it gave Jacob the name Yisrael, Israel, which God later ratified. And so, Jews have been Tiao Jin Chiao for as long as they have been Israelites. Chinese Torah scrolls. First of all, most amazingly, that they had Chinese Torah scrolls. Now, some of them even survive to this very day, in universities, in museums, and in private collections. Are they the same as the accepted Torah scrolls that are used by Jewish communities around the globe? The answer is that amazingly, yes, they are, except for a few minor discrepancies, such as spelling errors where the hey and the chet are used interchangeably. As you can tell, hey and chet sound very similar, and apparently the Jews in China eventually came to pronounce the letters exactly the same. And so it seems that after they lost old scrolls in floods and fires and had to quickly rewrite new scrolls, they had one person reading from a previous scroll, which probably was correctly written, and the person who was writing, who should in fact have been checking himself from the original scroll, but apparently this is not what took place. The person who was writing it down, listening to someone else read, most probably made the spelling errors that we see today. Primarily those between the letters hey and chet and other letters that came to be pronounced similarly by the Jewish community of China. By the way, after the flood in the 1400s and after a fire in the 1500s, the Jewish community in Kaifeng apparently received Torah scrolls from Jews in other parts of China. Unfortunately, we have no surviving relics from any other Jewish community in China, and so all that we have to go by for other Jewish communities in China are from this Jewish community in Kaifeng.